If the large increases in tariffs that have been announced are sustained, they're likely to generate a rise in inflation, a slowdown in economic growth, and an increase in unemployment. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It is also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored.
What if the price of everything you buy, from your phone to your food, was about to get a lot higher? What if the person promising to lower those prices was actually making them go up? And what if this all led to a showdown between the two most powerful economic figures in the country? This isn't a movie plot. This is the reality unfolding right now in the United States. The White House says inflation is right on track, but the data tells a very different story. At the center of it all is a controversial economic weapon: tariffs. Stick with us as we unravel this high-stakes economic drama, because what happens next will affect not just the American economy, but your wallet. Welcome back. To understand what's happening, we need to talk about two key things: inflation and tariffs. For months, the White House has declared that price growth is very low. However, just 6 months into the new administration, the official data paints a conflicting picture. After a period of calm, the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is on the rise again. In June, a wide range of goods, from fruit and washing machines to clothing and toys, all became more expensive. So what's causing this? Many economists point to one major policy: the aggressive and chaotic rollout of tariffs on a vast array of products from overseas. So what exactly is a tariff? Simply put, it's a tax placed on imported goods. The Trump administration has argued that the countries it targets, like China, will be forced to pay this tax. But that's not how it typically works in reality. Tariffs are paid by the importer, in this case, American companies bringing goods into the country. These companies then face a choice: absorb the extra cost and make less profit, or pass that cost on to their customers. As Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell recently noted, the cost of the tariff has to be paid by someone, and ultimately, some of it will fall on the end consumer. Think of it like a ripple effect. The cost gets passed along each link of the supply chain, from the manufacturer, to the shipping company, to the store, and finally, to you, the customer. This isn't just a small tax either. The overall average effective tariff rate is now projected to hit 20.6%, the highest level the United States has seen since the year 1910. This brings us to the second major player in this story, the Federal Reserve, often just called the Fed. The Fed is the central bank of the United States, and its primary job is to keep inflation in check, aiming for a target of about 2% per year. For 7 straight months, at 4 consecutive meetings, the Fed has kept interest rates on hold. After previously raising rates to fight off inflation, they are now in a holding pattern. Why? They are waiting to see how the economy, and specifically prices, will respond to these new aggressive tariffs. It takes time for the full effects of a tariff to ripple through the economy. While the president can announce a tariff in seconds, it can take months for you to feel it at the checkout counter. The evidence so far is mixed. While consumer prices accelerated in June, wholesale price growth actually slipped. The Fed's own Beige Book, a report filled with economic insights from across the country, described the business landscape as relatively calm, despite the uncertainty. Major economic forecasters are watching closely. Oxford Economics, for example, modeled that the announced tariffs will dent US economic growth by 0.1 percentage points this year and 0.3 percentage points next year. Their chief US economist noted that while the boost to consumer prices might seem modest, it still reduces people's real disposable income and, by extension, their spending. While the Federal Reserve is patiently monitoring the data from its headquarters in Washington, D.C., less than a mile away, the White House is growing impatient. President Trump has launched a series of increasingly bitter public attacks against the very person he first appointed to lead the Fed in 2017, Jerome Powell. The president has publicly lambasted Powell for being too late to cut interest rates, claiming the Fed's inaction is harming the US economy. He has called on Powell to quit and has deeply unsettled Wall Street by raising the possibility of firing him. This has created an unprecedented public conflict. The independence of the Federal Reserve from political pressure is a cornerstone of the modern US economy. The idea is that the Fed should make decisions based on economic data, not political goals. Critics like Bharat Ramamurthy, a former deputy director of the National Economic Council, warn that if the Fed chair is replaced by someone who simply does the president's bidding, long-term expectations about inflation could spike, creating a severe problem for the economy. It could make the US economy less attractive to investors both at home and abroad. Can the president even fire the Fed chair? The law is murky, but the Supreme Court has described the Fed as a uniquely structured, quasi-prevalent entity and signaled that its chair is legally shielded from presidential removal, simply over policy disagreements. President Trump himself has said it's highly unlikely he would fire Powell, before immediately suggesting a possible reason he might have to: alleged fraud related to a $2.5 billion renovation of the Fed's buildings. In response to this claim, Powell has reportedly asked the central bank's own inspector general to review the project. For his part, Jerome Powell has been steadfast, stressing he will remain in his post until his term finishes in May. The larger question, according to advocates for the Fed's independence, isn't whether the president can remove him, but whether he should. So here we are, at a critical juncture. The administration insists that inflation is right on track. Meanwhile, economists are concerned that the economy is tilting off course, fueled by a trade strategy that is making everyday items more expensive. The Federal Reserve is caught in the middle, trying to navigate the economic fallout while defending its independence from intense political pressure. The outcome of this clash between tariffs, inflation, and the powerful figures at the center of it all remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: the consequences will be felt by everyone. What do you think about this economic showdown? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video educational and want to support our channel, please hit that like button. And for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.